I asked Charlie Hooler to give me a podcast theme tune that reminded me of a town called Malice with a Peaky Blinders edge. The boys nailed it. Welcome to episode 11 of the Foy and Jones Show. This is season 6. We are inspiring our stars of the future, and today's guest is going to tell his own inspirational story. He's travelled down from Hertfordshire. He's arrived in Brighton, Sussex by the Sea. Matt Pitt, welcome to the studio. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Right, it's an absolute pleasure. I think that we're going to tell the listeners about the Caboodle story. They're going to get to know you, Matt, as a person. And more importantly, we're going to use that journey and take a snapshot of what it means in today's industry and how it can inspire the next generation. But it's a very special day, Charlie. Did you know?
Why?
May the 4th be with you.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's Star Wars Day. It's Star Wars Day. It's been all over social media. That and my trip to Budapest are the two viral trending subjects at the moment, man. I'm getting random people ringing the office going, "Did your boss go Budapest?" And I think I might have got a bit too big on it, to be honest. But we will, in this episode, be learning about Matt's journey and the Caboodle story. We're going to spend some time, Matt, talking about the industry now, what the KBB industry looks like now, to what it looked like when it all begun for you. Mm-hmm. And that story about where it begun, that's quite special. I'm looking forward to sharing that. We're going to get to know you away from work, and that's going to involve a conversation about Stevenage Town Football Club. We're going to be talking about a young skater that became a surfer. We'll get to know your family, your passions, your interests, and we're going to lead this episode, Charlie. We're going to lead this episode with words of advice for the next generation. You up for it, Mr. Hooler? Because you two, you don't need me, really, do you? You're talking about West Portugal, you're talking about the waves, what do you call it, the rips? Is that what you said?
The swell?
The swell, that's it. The swell. There's no swell here, there's swells there. I was thinking of Cadbury's 12s. I'm out of my depth and I'm going to try and get us back onto football. But, Matt, for the uneducated, because there may well be people who don't know the Caboodle story, and very well branded today. I like that.
Thank you. I love the brand. Yeah.
Got repping the brand is always good. Just take a couple of moments, mate, just to tell people who you are, what you do, and why we're here today, mate. Just introduce yourself.
All right. So I'm the managing director and founder of Caboodle, and what we do is we supply and install kitchen appliances. There's kind of two sides to our business. We've got the construction side where we supply and install for house builders and developers. And then we've got the more recent side where we're providing installation services directly for appliance manufacturers and also for retailers who are looking for that kind of fulfilment service for their sale. So two distinct customers there. So very much so, yeah.
If you're looking at the supply and install, that's we are building X amount of houses or X amount of flats, and you're involved in that project. But that's the other side of it's really interesting because it's a service you're offering to someone else where yes, you can buy this appliance and we will bring it to your home and we will get it going. That's two very different customers, isn't it? Because it's me and my wife on one hand, because we want a premium appliance and we want it installed and we want it fitted beautifully. Yeah. And then it's the more demanding, you could say, building plots and development plots. So,
correct.
So what's the real difference between them? How does is it separate teams that deal with it? How does it look?
It is and it isn't. It is separate teams. We kind of use the construction side actually as a training ground for our apprentices. That's where they learn the trade because they've got more opportunity. They've got plots after plots after plots, so they can hone their skills. They can mess up a door without upsetting Mrs. Jones, when they're...
She's very moody, Mrs. Jones.
Exactly.
You mess her doors up, mate.
Well, this is it. So they hone their craft on the construction side, and then we kind of cherry pick those that have not only got the installation skills, but they've got the soft skills, the customer skills, and then we place them into the home installation environment because that is just as important.
That's a great way to learn, though, in an empty house, in an empty flat,
exactly.
And you're able to put it right, aren't you? So that's fascinating, especially on the apprentices subject, which I know we'll come on to later because I'm gonna push you on what you look for in an employee and what you look for in an apprentice and what you look for in a star of the future.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's the theme for the episode. But let's go back then to where it began, because you wasn't born into appliance installation. Your career took a different pathway initially, didn't it?
It did, yeah. I didn't have a particular passion for washing machines and cookers. It was actually I was in sales. I just moved back from Australia and I got made redundant. So falling into this was more out of survival at the time. I happened to have a family member that was working for a distributor, and they helped me out and said, look, come and do this to tie yourself over while you find your next thing. So it's purely survival. I started as a trainee working with a qualified installer. I loved it. I enjoyed the banter. I enjoyed the team spirit. I enjoyed what was going on site. And I never really looked back. At the time, the company I was working for kind of dominated the south because they were the closest distributor to London. So where I saw my opportunity to kind of branch out on my own was looking at the distributors that were based sort of in the Midlands in Leicester and giving them a chance to unlock London by providing installation services.
So when was this, like date-wise, year-wise?
That was...
I'm showing you age.
This is our 18th year.
18th year.
Yeah,
okay.
so that was a long time ago. Yeah, I was 26 at the time. I probably looked 50 because I've always looked old. They call me Benjamin Button at work. I think I was just born old. So
Benjamin Button, he shouldn't have let that one out. We'll get that into the video clips, won't we, Charlie? We'll get that into the video clips. But all right, Benjamin Button. So let's go back. So being made redundant is pretty shit, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's
yes.
And I'm doing a lot of work. People know this. I'm doing a lot of work offering free of charge redundancy support because when you're made redundant, you often think it's the end, and it's different pressures for everyone. You know, you can come from high net worth and a 6-figure package, or you can be at a very junior level, but redundancy still hurts the same. I saw it affect members of my family during the lockdown crises, and we stood up and be counted, and we worked with some brilliant partners. You know, one of them sponsors this show still, Marcel MHK Holding UK. They sponsor this show still, but with them and with KUKA and with others, we put some great stuff together. David Walcott, who we mentioned
you were a
earlier,
saddler, weren't you?
I was one of the first saddlers. I don't know if I was the very first, but I was certainly one of the first.
That was a good initiative.
Yeah, I mean, brilliant, absolutely. It deserved everything it got in terms of praise, and I loved being involved with it because I could completely take my recruitment hat off, and people would not talk to me as a recruiter; they would talk to me about them. And it's a lot of the skills I learned during those conversations and during the redundancy support we did that enabled me to go again. And I'm going again now. And sadly, with the R word back, I'm fully booked now into June. Wow. You know, with the redundancy support I'm doing. Yeah. I've got to manage it, so I promised my accountant I'll only do so many hours a week free of charge, and I'll only do so much. But, you know, there's people I spoke to in December and January, who have found new jobs, and they're now clients. How good's that? You know, it's great they've got a new job, and it's great they remembered me. And if that in turn means when they're recruiting, they want to have a conversation and we can help them. Wow, it's there. Yeah. But redundancy doesn't mean the end. So you went from redundancy. So what was the position after that? Was it a sales position after that, or was it to the family?
From the redundant, I was in a sales position.
Yeah, that was the redundant one.
And I went into installation.
Installation. So that's what I want to focus on. So you're in your mid-20s.
Yep.
A lot of our listeners will be in their mid-20s, and they may be frustrated in their current role. They may see an opportunity. You did something very brave. You grasped that opportunity. Tell us about that moment. When did it become reality for you?
What, to take the business?
What were the triggers for you to decide this isn't just going to be a dream? I'm going to do something here.
At the time, I think we was in a position. I mean, I suppose I'd always quite fancied the idea of working for myself and starting my own business. And at the time we made that decision, we was at the age where the decision was mortgage or have a crack at it, and we just felt that we're young enough to start the business, and if it didn't quite pan out, then we've got time. So that was the decision. We just made the decision. Like I said, I went up to a distributor in the north. I pitched the idea to the MD at the time, Paul Davis, really top guy, and I just said, look, you know, if you can win the business in London, I can provide the installation service for you. And he couldn't wait to get started. He just said, just let me know when you've got a van and we'll fill it. And at the time, the plan really was just to work on my own, for myself, with enough work to sort of tie myself and my wife over. But within 3 months, I'd employed my first person,
Really?
I had
That quick?
That quick. And it snowballed very quickly, because what happened from there was it was clearly working. It was working for the business I was working for. Other distributors got wind of it and wanted to use our service. Then they wanted us to expand our territory, which I wasn't interested in. But you're in the position where the conversation goes, look, we're going to need you to cover a bigger area. If you can't, we're going to have to find somebody else, which means you might lose the patch you've got. So again, there was no real desire to grow this big business, but it was more out of, well, I don't want to lose this work. I'm going to have to expand. And expand. And before I knew it, I had a team of installers, my little band of merry men in the early days. And that's it. We just grew and grew.
But those moments, and I always talk. There's certain moments. I look in my own life, and there's certain things that have happened. Some business, some personal, but they've had a real impact. On me. Meeting my wife, having Harry, having Henry. Moving to the West Country when we were really young, moving back. There's different things that happen that really have an impact.
Yeah.
I remember. When I lived with my nan and we went to Hammersmith and Fulham Council, and my granddad had just passed away suddenly, and all my nan wanted was for me to go on the housing list. And the housing officer said, well, you can't. You can't put your grandson on the list because the tenancy's been passed over. He'll have to go on the other list, and he might not get a property for whatever. But if you want to, Mrs. Soley, which is her name, God rest her soul, you can buy it on the right to buy scheme. But as you don't have an income, I don't know how you'll do that. And I remember we walked back onto Fulham Road and we walked back to our flat, and I went, and it was only 10, 15 minutes, and I went, I'm going to buy this for you, Nan. No idea I was going to do it. I was working, I think, 4 hours a day at Travis at the time, so I'm going to buy this for you. And I did. And, and she lived there to her dying day. And that ended up as a reasonable investment, but not because I was a shrewd property baron, Matt, not at all. It's because my nan needed somewhere to live, and the geezer said she couldn't put me on the list, and I got the hump.
Yeah.
And things happen. Your moment, I guess, was when you were up there and you're doing your Dragon's Den pitch, if we're being trendy. You're pitching to someone about an opportunity, and you're saying to them, they're saying, how quick can you get a van?
Yeah.
How quick can you make it happen?
Yeah.
Then you're coming back down the M1 or the A1, and you've got a decision to make. You've got to get that van.
Yeah.
How'd you get it?
Well,
After Daily Motors, or did you go somewhere a bit more reputable?
It was just a bit of luck. It was a gamble, because at the time I was pretty much living in my overdraft. We'd been overseas for a couple of years and we were just finding our feet, and I was just about credit worthy enough to take a contract hire.
Yeah.
And I just,
there you go.
just took a spin. I thought, right, I can definitely afford the next 3 months' rent.
Yeah.
That was my cliff edge. That was literally it. I thought, I can afford to cover us for 3 months. So I did it, and away we went. I got the van, and the first week of starting on my own, so I'd left a good employer.
I think this is such, Charlie, it's an amazing story. This.
Mate, I'll talk about vans all day. My van's my happy place.
Charlie, I mean, you've done your surfing. He'll show you his van on the way out, mate. Do you know? The Buddha van is a work of art.
It's a machine, mate. It's a beast.
But that moment, like, what you're saying there, mate, like people need to listen to this, the next generation, because actually, you had 3 months to turn it around. You've just passed the credit score. You've got yourself a van.
Yeah.
You've got yourself a backer.
Yeah.
You've got yourself a market to go for.
Yeah.
Boom.
I felt, I suppose, in your 20s, you got a bit more confidence, and I don't know if it's naivety, but I just felt this was going to work. And I vividly remember my first week, because I left, like I said, my employer was good. They looked after us. We got paid well. It was secure. And I left it. And my first week I got this van, I got it delivered. First day I was driving, I remember it well, I was driving to Colchester to site for my first 3 plots on my own. First thing that happens as I'm tearing along the road is a stone pops up, hits the windscreen, cracks straight down the middle. Right? Doesn't sound major, but in that moment, I literally reached for my phone, because I thought, I'll phone the office. They'll sort this out. Oh, hang on a minute. I haven't got enough. I've got to sort this. When am I going to do that? I've got to fit these plots. Anyway, that was my first bit of a wobble. Got to site.
With the windscreen or without?
No, the windscreen was fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
I got the day's work done, and driving home. That very night, I loaded up for the next day. I'd had some appliances delivered to my garage, because that was my warehouse at the time. Parked my van, and the very night, the next morning, I'd come out early, first one up. The handbrake had gone on the van. It was parked on a slope, and I found it at the bottom of the road, in my neighbour's drive, brick wall over. So that was I'm staring at day 2 of starting on my own. And again, thinking, right, so now I've got a cracked windscreen to fix and I've got my neighbour's wall to fix. What have I done?
Yeah. And you've blocked up, and your deliveries have blocked up everyone on the school run as well. Probably.
Yeah, and also then you start thinking, and tonight when I get back, I've got to start fitting in my invoicing because I don't. These are all the things. So it was a baptism of fire, I'd say, and it was a little bit of a what have I done moment, probably for a couple of months, and then you settle into the routine, you figure things out, and away you go. And I look back on those days, and I think the one thing I did know was I knew how to please a site agent, install the appliances, do a quality job, and look after my customer. That's what I knew. And I was just confident, as long as I could do that, I'll get paid. And the rest I can figure out. And that's what I did. And over the years, you're hit with a challenge. At the time, it feels like an insurmountable challenge. But you figure it out and you move on. And then the next challenge is bigger.
You've got your podcast challenge today. So
this is a challenge,
This was your first podcast, wasn't it? I think you said earlier.
It is my first. Well, I've done one amateur podcast which was a golfers group.
Oh, the golf! Yeah, hopefully, Charlie, we can put a production better than a golfers group.
Yeah, you're doing well.
If it weren't a surfers group, but mate, you're coming over brilliantly, and I just, you don't have to be that honest as well. Guests don't have to, but to actually say that's what happened day 1, that's what happened day 2, and I've got to do my invoicing. I mean, we've all been on different journeys in our careers, and I guess that's the beauty of the Caboodle story, because if you look at where it started, let's fast forward and just let's let our connections, our listeners, and our networks know where that business is now, because it's not trading out your garage. You're not knocking anyone else's wall down. You've built a pretty impressive business, mate.
Yeah, it's exciting, and do you know what we've got so far to go as well.
Yeah.
But today we've got 3 depots, headquarters in Stevenage. We've got a depot in Garforth, just outside Leeds. One down in Highbridge. We've got plans to launch a new depot this year. So yeah, the business has massively moved on. We've had a real change over the last 2 years. I brought on new investors to the business and backers. They're fully supporting us as a team and a leadership team. So we've got a very strong structure, very strong foundations.
You've got your new depot in Shrewsbury. You've got the business, or the location in Stevenage is getting better. How many staff you got now?
75 directly employed.
75 employees.
Yeah.
That conversation with the new investors and that business must be very different to that first pitch back up in the Midlands. In some ways,
it is.
In some ways, but they're all the same, aren't they?
Yes.
They're all the same. Some of those, what you believe in, what your vision is, almost the North Star, in terms of where you want to get to. That comes through with Caboodle. There's a culture in there that you've created or curated or developed. There's a mentality and there's a way of working, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important to get I'm so passionate about this business, and the key to it for me is the level of service that we provide to our customer, whether that's the builder or whether it's Mrs. Jones, who's just ordered a dishwasher from John Lewis. That is the key, and I think...
Is that the very demanding Mrs. Jones we mentioned earlier?
Yes, the Mrs. Jones.
Tough gig, mate. Yeah. Tough gig.
It is. But if I can get that passion across, and get people to buy into that and believe in that, then we'll get the support.
It's a really tough thing to do, though, isn't it? Because I talk about all this time in business. I say, okay, so you're telling me they've got to fit culturally. How do you measure that? Because if you can't tell me how you measure it, how do you want our team to measure it? And we have a lot of fun about it, and we do whitewalling and brainstorming. And it's almost like some business say, I just want to have a sheep dip. I just want them to go bosh out next. I'm like, well, you're not going to do that. So
no.
So there's got to be... and we'll talk about it now, actually, so I think it's really relevant. When your business is recruiting a star of the future, what do you look for in someone in terms of what makes someone employable through your eyes and for your respective hiring managers, the people in your team that make those decisions? What are you looking for?
It's a great question, because I genuinely, if you'd have asked me that 5-6 years ago, it'd be a very different answer.
Would it?
Yeah, it would. And the reason is
Has things changed?
When you start, you look for people that you think you're going to enjoy a drink with down the pub, that you're going to get along with.
Yeah.
And you want everyone to kind of be a bit like you. And you to a degree, in the early days, that's okay, because you spend a lot of time together. But what you learn as you go along, I mean, we did a fantastic, as part of a leadership training, we did like a personality assessment of all of our leadership team. And what came out of it is just the real benefit of diversity of thinking.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to have that diversity in your team, different ways of thinking. So asking me what I look for now in a recruit is very much... It's so broad, and a lot of it relates to the role, because there are so many different characteristics and attributes and personality traits that you would align to that role. But for me, what I've learned is you can't pigeonhole anybody. You know, you can't. You have to be very open-minded with that cultural fit, and it might not necessarily be someone that you're going to be best friends with, but they could have some incredible skills that would absolutely nail that role. So you've got to look beyond sort of a pigeonhole of, well, they'll fit, you know, the team will get on, they're great. It's more about, are they going to perform? Are they going to deliver the results for the business? In which case, the team wins.
And you're then looking for the value they add, aren't you? And actually, I love the comment diversity of thinking. I hope Tony is listening, Tony McClellan from last week's episode. Because, a couple of episodes ago, actually, Tony's big on diversity, big on education, big on inclusion, and you know, she wants businesses to be courageous. She wants them to embrace the learning opportunity of working with different people, and she sees diversity more than race, colour, and creed and religion. She sees it as actually a skill set, and a way of thinking. So to hear a leader like yourself talking about that,
was she the one talking about the gang, the ex? Yeah, that was really interesting.
Tony basically said, you know, if they're not a good gang leader, they'll end up brown bread.
Right, yeah.
You know, like boom, that's a KPI you got to hit, isn't it? I mean, I'm not encouraging any of our stars in the future to turn left instead of turning right, but that's quite a heavy KPI, isn't it? If you're not good, you're dead. Yeah, but Tony's a brilliant guest, like absolutely. She's an inspirational woman as well.
She was very much.
I really get on with her, and I kind of listen to her for advice, and she's really, really good. Helps. She's kind of from my part of the world, and that we've got. She's a lot older, not a lot older than me, but she's like a lot of my best mates' elder sisters,
right?
And that's the biggest compliment I can give her. Is that I would probably be playing football with her little brother. Do you know what I mean? Like she's that lovely a person, but as a mentor. As a board advisor, as someone who can make a difference, couldn't rate her highly enough. Great episode. Hello, Tony. But you're talking there, and you said something else, Matt, which I think is so on point. You said that actually what we want varies depending on the appointment, depending on the role, depending on the responsibilities, depending on the team, and that has to. You can't have like we'll talk football, Charlie. You can't have 10 centre forwards in a team. You can't have a team made up of holding midfielders. You've got to have different creation.
That's right.
You've got to have creativity. People playing different formations and knowing what you want. You know, if I want a right back, do I want to defend first or bomb up and down the wing? You know, they're two very different players, but you know what your business needs. If you're work thus far is giving you a 75 strong head count and you've grown your turnover and your business dramatically, you've recognised that. That's a message for every business and every leader, mate. So thank you so much for sharing it. Thank you so much for sharing it. Before we go to break, Charlie, what I want to do is I just want to dive into the KBB industry.
Yep.
All right? Very close to my heart. Very, very close to your heart. On the Caboodle journey.
Yeah.
The 18 years on the Caboodle journey, what are the big milestones and changes you've seen? How the industry was then to how it is now? Is it the same? Are there differences?
There are similarities. It has moved on a lot. I think for us, when we started, it was very much the construction side of the business, and we moved into the retail side, which has been really interesting, actually. But what we're noticing on that side, especially, is the change in consumer habits, because potentially 10 years ago, if you bought yourself a washing machine, that was a necessity, that was a must-buy, you needed that. The installation was a nice-to-have. You know, most of the time you'd figure out how to install it yourself. What we're finding
or
now...
not, in my house, yeah.
But we're finding that the next generation of homeowners and renters, the Gen Zs coming in, the installation is a necessity. They don't have the skills to do that. So the consumer spend now, that even though if you take this year, for example, retail is down, in general. You know, the cost of living crisis is hitting people, and the cost of food. So the purchases of appliances on the retail side is down. But for Caboodle, our orders are up. The installation selection on those retail websites is up because more and more consumers are needing an engineer to come and install. So that's kind of good for Caboodle, but it's bad as well because then it leads into the kind of skills crisis and people's sort of appetite effectively for practical skills, which hits us on the other side when we're looking for people to come into the industry, you know.
Fair play. One last question before the break, and Charlie's going to want to know the answer. Who come up with a name?
Oh, it's a bit of a...
It's a lot more exciting than Foyne Jones, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Hula Music Co over there. You know, we've dug deep, haven't we, with our names?
When I started, I was KAI, Kitchen Appliance Installation. It was boring. Yeah. Every other company had a 3-letter abbreviation. And we wanted a good name. We went in to see this agency about it. We had a conversation. It was the first brief. Yeah. And we thought it was going to take weeks.
Did they have them all up and knock them over and stuff like that?
They were like, you know, it was your typical creative agency. Yeah. There were beanbags and skateboards and sleep pods, everything, the works. So they talked us through their process and they said, this is how it's going to work. And by about week 3, week 4, we should come up with something. So tell us what you do. So I sat there, told them what we do. Well, we deliver appliances, we install them, we take away the rubbish, we do a demonstration, blah, blah, blah. And one chap just sat there and went, oh, so it's kind of like the whole kit and caboodle then, really, isn't it? And we just went, caboodle. We'll take that. Perfect. We'll save you the job.
And we'll save you Bob as well. We're done.
It was probably the quickest money they ever earned, you know, because everybody just had a light bulb moment. Yeah. The whole kit and caboodle. That's what you do. That's your service. So that's how it came about.
What a fantastic caboodle moment to end the first half of the show. Matt, you've been a brilliant guest. When we get back, we are going to be talking Stevenage Town Football Club. What turned a skater into a surfer? That reminds me of I was a skater boy. I said, see you later, boy. And what the future holds for the next generation. Matt, brilliant guest. We'll see you after the break.
Life-changing recruitment for the KBB, builders merchant and construction industries. Creative social content, specialist knowledge, world-leading video technology, helping you find career happiness and helping your business attract its stars of the future. We are Foyne Jones. This is what we do.
Welcome back to episode 11 of season 6 of my podcast, The Foyne Jones Show. Saying it's season 6 is always a little surreal moment because it started off, there's just a crazy idea where I could talk to a few people about football. But here we are, we've got an industry-leading podcast. Today's guest, Matt Pitt, you've been absolutely brilliant, sir. We know the caboodle story. We know your story, where it began and where it is now. What I want to talk to you about is something which I think is absolutely brilliant. It goes back to your HQ in Stevenage, where you're based in the bigger location now, and it goes back to building links, or it's talking about building links and having a presence in the local community. One of our previous guests, David Blitz, his company, very big with Leyton Orient Football Club. So again, community-driven club. You support your business is heavily involved with Stevenage Town. They're another company being supported by our guests who've just celebrated promotion. Did they win the league?
Leyton Orient.
Your boy, Stevenage.
Second.
Yeah, promoted?
Yeah. Yes, promoted to League One, yeah.
Excellent. So 2 promotions. Leyton Orient won the league. Stevenage Town are up in second place. You guys doing a lot of work with Stevenage Town?
Yeah, it started years ago. I got a phone call from Stevenage Town. It was they were just after a donation of some cheap fridges, really, for their academy. That was it. And we said, yeah, we'll help you out. And we went down and we met Clive, who does all the sort of corporate promotion, everything. And he thanked us with like a match day sponsorship. We took some of the staff down. We had a great day. That's literally how it started. So we don't do loads, but we usually sponsor a match every season. We've just started to go down on the terraces and take a whole bunch of the installers with us because there's a bit of an appetite. Once the club's on the up, there's a bit more interest, you know, and they've had an absolutely cracking season since Steve Evans took over. And
he's a character as well, isn't he, as a manager?
He's amazing. I mean, when he started, I think it was about March last year, Stevenage were 3 points off the relegation zone. You know, it was that bad. And I've got a mate who used to work with Steve when he was at Crawley Town. Yeah. and this guy was in marketing. And when Steve joined Stevenage, he called me and he said, that guy's going to get you promoted, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's back-to-back promotions. So there you go. I was like, okay, we'll see.
We better jump on this
at the time.
bit, yeah.
Well, looking at the situation, it looked pretty bleak, but yeah, great run in the FA Cup. And
I always
result.
remember Stevenage Town for the FA Cup runs. We're talking off air, the Newcastle United match, and they did become known as a giant killer, or always giving it a real go. And I guess as well for people in that part of the world, my mum's in that part of the world. Stevenage can be like a second club, because there's a huge population of Arsenal fans, huge population of Tottenham fans for obvious reasons. Yeah. But not everyone can get to those games.
Yeah. Not many Fulham fans though.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. There might be some in Hertfordshire, but we spread far and wide.
Do you know, I have to say, in all my 45 years
never
on
met a
this
Fulham fan.
You're the second Fulham fan I've ever met.
There you go. I probably know the other one.
Yeah, you probably do. His name's Paul.
Yeah. Well, Peter and Paul. Of course, we're both Fulham fans. That's what people normally say. But as I think I said to David Blitz, being the only Fulham fan people know, Fulham fan that people know, is quite good if you need free tickets and hospitality. When they're like, oh God, it's Wednesday night, we've got Fulham, we've got no one to give this corporate suite to. Let's ring Jonesy, he won't be. He'll come up. No. But isn't that nice though, to be involved in a local team,
it's
in a
good.
local town?
It is good. Yeah, it's nice. It's a real buzz. It's good to be a business in the community. I think that's really important. And like I said, for the installers, that they enjoy the afternoon.
On a much smaller scale, Foyne Jones have supported Lewis, who again, they're in semi-pro football, punching above their weight. To be fair, the women's team recently got knocked out in the FA Cup quarter-final at Man United. They played. It's a surreal day for me actually, because Fulham self-destructed against Man United men at Old Trafford, and Lewis ladies they made a game of it, but they got beaten by a much higher quality team on the same day. So that's it for football. I think we're done. But let's talk about your other love. I want to hear about what turned young skater boy Matt into the surfer you are today, because that from my group of friends, the kids that weren't necessarily playing football or they're the skater kids and the BMX kids, a lot of them progressed to snowboarding and surfing. It's sort of it's a way of life as much as anything, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't surf in the UK. I did grow up skating, and that was what I did. And when we got married and moved to Australia, we lived on the coast and we were there for a couple of years. And I got obviously from skating, watching people surf, just wanted to have a go. Yeah. And once you catch your first wave, they say only a surfer knows the feeling. I mean, it sounds a bit cheesy, but it's true. It really is. And
should I leave now, Charlie, and just let you two talk surfing for a bit?
No, mate, we're going to teach you. We're going to teach you the magic ways of it.
I might have a go.
I'd love to see this.
I might have a go. Or maybe I can kneel on it or something like that. I don't know. I'd have a go at anything, to be fair. I'd have a go. But you're off surfing soon, Charlie, aren't you?
Yeah, man, it's crazy. 2 weeks today we'll be there down in southern Portugal.
Are we breaking production for that week, are we? Because I don't want to be left alone with all this equipment. That could be a terrible return.
Double recording this week, and I'm editing whilst we're out there that week. That's
editing whilst he's out there. He loves that old shout, doesn't he? There you go. Living the freelancer's dream. So 2 years in Australia, living on the beach. What part of Australia?
On the Gold Coast. Yeah, just south of Surfers Paradise. The guy that we ended up hooking up with, living with for a bit, he was a keen surfer, and he just taught me the ways. And it's an interesting one, because the amount of time you actually spend on the wave compared to the amount of time you're grinding to get out and ducking and getting wiped out just for that little moment's buzz, I can relate to business in a lot of way, because
that's a great point, mate.
It's a grind, but when you get those highs, there's nothing like it, and that's.
But you're working harder than everyone else. You trust in the process. You believe in that moment's going to come, and you're going again, and you're going again, and you're going again.
Yeah, absolutely that. Yeah,
that's pretty good advice. So let's talk about next generation, and let's talk about advice as we come towards the end of the show, which is a shame, to be fair, because this is one of those conversations that could go on and on. But if we're looking at the industry now, we know there is a problem with installers. We know there is a challenge in getting more businesses to embrace the power of apprenticeships, what they can offer. addressing those two factors are big on lots of people's radars. You know, Damien Waters is up there in terms of spreading the message. And Damien's been a he's been a two-time guest on the Bob and Joe show, definitely. And I think he's popped up in a couple of other things I've done.
He's flying the flag, isn't he?
Yeah, very passionately. But from what I can see, the challenge he has at the moment isn't the apprenticeship schemes. It's getting the take-up with businesses to bring apprentices in. You have lots of apprentices in your business, don't you? Is that something you've created? Is it something that's harder to bring them in now? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's our biggest challenge. You know, we've got so much opportunity and there's so much potential for growth, but we won't grow beyond our capabilities, and the key is getting good quality installers. That's always going to be a challenge. We have created it largely in-house, and it's taken years and years and years of perfection. It is our USP, is the way that we can attract, recruit, and train. And I'm proud to say we've got a very low turnover of installers once they're with us.
Yeah.
But I think
you said something about that to me earlier, and it was such a powerful comment, and it was just part of the conversation. But you know, you said about the people that when people move on, you know, it kind of breaks your heart in a way, because but you know it's the okay. I mean, I guess it's kind of like your kids leaving home, isn't it? You don't really want them to go, but you know they got to go, and you think, oh, that'd be good when they go, but then they come back, like, please go. But from an employer-employee perspective, when you watch people on a journey and they've started at a level and they've got to a level, and you've given them the tools to move on to something life-changing, as much as it hurts. And I've been through this recently with Jack the lad who worked for me, and I've known him since he was a little kid. He's done great things in his time with us, and if I had a magic wand, I wouldn't have wanted him to go, but he wanted to go, and what he's doing is something very different and career-defining for him. Good luck, son. You know, good luck. Go out there and smash it. The way you said that, you know, you meant it with your eyes, you meant it from your heart. It's tough, isn't it, when you do it? And do you think that could put people off? They want to bring people in to do that.
I don't know. It
shouldn't, should it?
No, and you need to just, in some ways, just toughen up. It's a bittersweet situation because although you know losing good guys and guys that you've enjoyed working with, you get a super sense of achievement seeing them go on and achieve. I'm in touch with loads of people that have come through Caboodle, and some of them have got their own businesses now and they're doing really well. You know, and I take pride in the fact that they were inspired to do that from working with us, and that's great. You know, and they're going on to do great things. So there's a good side to it. As long as you've got the ability to attract new talent, then this is all part of the journey. You know, it's going to happen. And that's the key. I think a lot more needs to be done in really promoting apprenticeships and installation as a career choice. And it's funny because I was listening to the radio on the way down there, and they were chatting about AI. Yeah. And they were saying it's a real threat that AI could take a third of the jobs in the UK over the next 10 years. And that's frightening statistic, isn't it? But I'd put my neck on the line today and say I'm pretty certain AI is not going to fit your downdraft extractor ever, or your gas
Not
hob.
to Mrs Jones's standards, mate. It's got absolutely no chance. And if it does, its work is done.
Well,
Jane's going to hate me if she listens to this episode, isn't she? I've made a bit out.
Sorry, Mrs. Jones.
She's the most laid-back person in the world. You get more cups of tea and sandwiches in our house if you come to do any work than you do work. So probably take that back. But no. I mean, we've got the internet was going to take all our jobs. Do you know what I mean? Social media was going to take all their jobs. Creators are going to take all their jobs. No one needs to do any work. We can all be influenced. We can all be. Technology is going to evolve. You know, yes, it will, and I actually think that embracing it through the right way will make a difference. But the lifeblood of any business is people. Yeah. And the next generation, whether they are school leavers, college leavers, university leavers, or whether they're transferring in from a mature age, wanting to learn different skills, we can come from everywhere to arrive at the point. But it is something which I 100% agree with you, Matt, is that there is an apprenticeship problem, there's an installer problem, and actually where the best people come from what brings them in. We need businesses like yours and brands like yours to stand up and say, look at this pathway, look at the success you can have, look at what you can be earning. Because that's a message that, although it's being shouted out, I don't think it's being shouted out loud enough or in the right way, or it's connecting at the right times.
Yeah.
And if we can do that together, the future of the industry is very, very safe. But the challenge will be the next generation of installers. And I think if we can learn from the Caboodle way, we'll be in a good place. What about that?
Love it. Thank you.
Matt, thank you so much. So we're going to wrap the episode up like we always do. I need to say thank you to a few people, because without them we don't have a show. So Surfer Boy over there, Charlie Hooler. We're episode 11, so we're fastly approaching the halfway point of season 6. Thanks for all the work you've been doing in studio, on studio, offset, answering my crazy messages, because I text people at random times. They don't have to come back to me, but I just have to get it off my chest, Matt. It's like, I've got this idea. Can we do that? Yes, but Peter, it'd be okay. We'll talk about it on Thursday. Okay, but can we talk about it now? No, we'll talk about it on Thursday. Okay, we'll talk about it Thursday. Thank you, Charlie. Your patience, your expertise, and your creativity make a massive difference.
Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Head sponsor Marcel, headline sponsor. Without the MHK Holding UK group, we don't have a podcast, so thanks to him. And obviously, all the listeners out there, whether you're a new listener, an old listener, a fan of Caboodle, a fan of Foyne Jones, a fan of Hooler, whoever you are, without you there is no podcast. Thank you so much. Matt, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
I'd like you to give some words of advice to the next generation. What would you say to people now at the beginning of their career?
Right, yeah. So mine is all about people, because it's people that have basically shaped my journey. So number one, I firmly buy into the theory that you are the sum average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. I really do believe that. So first bit of advice is choose your circle wisely, and just make sure you surround yourself with people that are aligned to your goals, your values, and are going to inspire you and keep pushing you. That's number one. Number two, never pass up the opportunity to network and get yourself out there. I did that from day one. I said yes to everything. And I think it's important nowadays to promote yourself as much as you promote your business, because people buy from people. And, you can potentially move from job to job in your career, but nowadays your personal brand is with you forever, on social media, and your reputation is so important. So get yourself out there, even if it's out of your comfort zone. I advise you to do that. And thirdly, probably a bit old-fashioned in the world of blocking and ghosting and zombieing, but I have to say this: just don't burn your bridges. Never burn your bridges. Respond to emails. If you're having a bit of a tricky conflict in a business sense, take the emotion out of it. Never make it personal, and just stay professional, because especially in KBB, it's a small industry, people move around, you never know who you're going to bump into again. And that's it really. Just never burn your bridges.
Matt, they were pretty damn good, mate. To be fair, that
might be 3 of the best.
It was well delivered. And if we sum them up again, surround yourself with good people. If I surrounded myself with the wrong people, I could have been talking to Tony, and I could have arguably been in that gang or in prison or whatever. And it's being around good people that gives you that pathway. And it's easy to be influenced by the wrong people as much as it is by the right people. So that's a fantastic point. And the second point you made, network. 2 angles on that. Yeah, you could do a lot of damage to your personal brand, and you could do a lot of good to your personal brand by doing it the right way. So, and yeah, putting yourself out there, getting comfortable, feeling uncomfortable, networking, saying yes. You're selling all the time. You're building relationships all the time. Fantastic advice. The last one, taking emotion out, don't burn your bridges. I've got one at the moment where if I looked at it emotionally, I'd be quite aggressive and upset. But when I look at it calmly, it's not that bad.
That's the key.
And it's not that bad. But I'm saying that at 48 years young. Yeah. I'm not saying that at 18, 19, 20, 21, at the other stage of my journey where I was probably too aggressive, probably too confrontational, probably too, it's got to happen now. I look back at the younger me and think, I did all right, but got away with it a few times as well. And I was very good, Matt, at saying sorry. You know, that was something I was taught. I was taught by a very, very top man, and he said, look, keep doing what you're doing. If you get it wrong, we can always say sorry and we'll go again. And that was great advice. But in terms of what you said, choose your circle, network, don't burn your bridges. What a fantastic way to end episode 11. Matt, the caboodle stories have been brilliant. The surfing stories have been brilliant. We've loved the Steve in his town banter. But for me, it all started with a man in a van and a broken windscreen.
It did.
What a fantastic episode of the Foyne Jones Show. Thanks for listening. Charlie, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, boys.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as I said, that's the end of the show. Thanks for listening. Make sure you check out next week's episode as we will keep inspiring our stars of the future.